everybody. Thank you for joining us for this very special, we're all very, very excited. We've all been like jumped on live on StreamYard earlier than we've ever jumped on StreamYard for one of these so that we can talk about what we're going to do. We have been planning this for ages and we're very excited to talk Buffy. So thank you for joining us so that we can do that.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Okay. So do we just want to get right into it? I know we've got some lurkers and people will be coming in. So
yeah, definitely. I know we've got lots that we want to talk about. So I think we should just jump in and see how we go. So our plan is we have some major cards that we definitely want to talk about, that we all have some feels about one way or another. And then we're just going to, depending on timing, we're then just going to go through the minors and see which ones jump out at us to talk about some more. If you have any particular cards that you want us to talk about, put it in the comments. We will certainly do that. We will talk about Buffy until, I don't know, the sun comes up tomorrow. We're good to go. So anything you want us to talk about, let us know.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
All right. So, Julie, you are our card master, I believe.
I am the card master. Okay. So we, let's see here. The first one that we wanted to talk about. So we liked the Fool. We liked our choice for Magician. High Priestess was great. Was Tara. Empress. Empress. Empress was the first one.
Yeah.
That people had thoughts about. Strong thoughts about.
Yeah.
I liked it, honestly, just because I thought it was hilarious. Drew with, her little dolls, Edith. It's a funny kind of take, I suppose. And I also understand why Sarah and Heather hated it. So
hated it is a strong word.
I mean, Drusilla, yes, she is nurturing, but also her canary dies because she forgets to feed it.
She forgets to feed it, right?
Yeah. Shadowy Empress.
It's definitely a shadowy Empress.
It's definitely a shadowy
Empress, but I think also, we're seeing Drew as vampire Drew, but pre turning of the vampire, she seemed like a very sweet person, right? I think she was a caregiver to her family and such, wasn't she? I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe I'm getting my characters mixed up. But anyway, so I know we're kind of
terrible choice. I just think there are better choices.
So who would you have chosen then, Heather?
I think the perfect choice for the Empress would be Tara, but I love her as the High Priestess. But I think she also makes sense as the Empress as well. I think she, especially when she gets more comfortable and she comes out of herself, season 6, when she becomes more and more motherly. She does a lot of looking after Dawn when Buffy's not coping, and she is the one that they all go to at different times with issues and stuff. I just think she has Empress energy for me.
Absolutely.
But I also love her as the High Priestess, and I also just love her, so I want her to be every card.
Terry did be saying that no, Drew, she was young and innocent. Yeah, young and innocent, not much of a caretaker. So I'm getting my characters mixed up then.
She was, and Drusilla pre being sired as a vampire was also she was super religious. She actually came across as relatively powerless prior to being a vampire. To me, in a lot of ways, she seemed like the kind of person who was very unsure of herself and who was very worried about, because she was already psychic, right? She was worried about the powers that she had. She thought that they were potentially evil. Nothing about Drew pre-vampire to me screams Empress. And I think in a lot of ways too, part of my not liking her as the Empress is because I would have preferred her as the Moon. I feel like she would have been a pretty amazing Moon card. But I also think Joyce would have been a good Empress.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no, Joyce is a good,
yeah. I like her as but we like her as Temperance as well. She works beautifully as Temperance, but I definitely think Empress, for sure.
But I feel the same, because I also think, because I know we're not going to talk about them, but I'm going to talk about them anyway. Like the Emperor and the Hierophant. I think I like Buffy as the Emperor, and I like Giles as the Hierophant. But I think Giles and Joyce would have worked as the Emperor and the Empress as well, really well.
Yeah. And yeah, Emily's point here that actually Drew would have been a good High Priestess too. Like, sure, she totally on a lot of levels, like she totally could have worked as the High Priestess too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
very good.
And in fact, I think that's what I would have done personally. I think I would have swapped them around, and I would have had Drew as the High Priestess and Tara as the Empress.
I think I actually think I would have preferred that, honestly.
So. I think that would have been a good choice.
Okay.
Cool.
Nice. All right. So we did talk about Giles being the Hierophant, which makes perfect sense. We like that. Next up that we were having discussion on is the Lover's card. So we see Willow and Tara here. This is once more with feeling, I believe. They're on that bridge. Although their embrace is also reminiscent of when they were at the what the hell is that bar called?
Bronze. When they were floating.
Yeah. That's what that reminds me of. Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
But anyway, so I like this as the Lover's card, and also Sarah had some thoughts about this, which I'm on board. I actually like her idea. So
my thought on this is that I would have loved for the Two of Cups in this deck and the Lovers to be switched. The Lovers, the Two of Cups in this deck is Buffy and Faith. And to me, like, that is not remotely Two of Cups energy, but there is like some very interesting Lovers energy there in terms of duality, in terms of how they both make very different choices as far as how they're going to be living their lives. Like, there's so much Lovers energy to me there. Whereas Willow and Tara, I mean, yes, they have their problems and their ups and downs, and they certainly have their differences, but I do see them as much more of the sort of like just generally loving, supportive relationship, which is how I see the Two of Cups. So I would have swapped those personally. That's just,
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
So and again, I do know as well that like in making this deck, I'm sure they had to think about like, we don't want to overrepresent certain characters in the majors, and like I'm already saying, oh yes, like these characters that are already represented in other cards in the majors should also be in this card. And so I mean, I get the choices that they make, but just from a tarot reader standpoint.
And I think that's in a few of the cards, that's the conversations that we've already had, isn't it? That we're looking at the cards and we're like, I totally get the choice they made here, and I understand why they've done it, like put this person here instead of here because of trying to get the right people in the right places. But from purely from a tarot reader perspective and from a huge fan of the show perspective, there are just choices that we would have made that would have been different. And for a lot of cards, we don't hate the choices that they made, we just want better ones.
And I like that. Emily's question here: is there an Angel and Buffy card? Interestingly enough, the description of the Two of Cups in the guidebook references Angel and Buffy, but then there's a complete mismatch between the description and the card image, as there is in like half of this deck. So apparently at some point they were thinking Angel and Buffy for the Two of Cups, and then went a different direction in the illustration. So
really the only time we see Angel and Buffy is in the Ten of Scythes, where heartbreaking. Okay, we'll get to that though. But yeah, that's the only
best. So good.
Yeah. All right. So the next one that there were strong feelings. 3 girls bootleg Buffy.
Just to like Buffy Tarot. Funnily enough, before this deck was like, we knew this deck was happening, we did have conversations about doing our own.
Well, Sarah and Heather did, because I had not watched all of Buffy yet. I'd only seen like a few episodes out of sequence. All happened to be major spoilers, yet I knew nothing of what was going on. So I actually started from the very beginning, like late last year. When was it? I don't know. And finished before getting the deck. So yeah. So Sarah and Heather have very strong opinions about. They already had this deck in their head before it was even created.
Yeah.
So we came up with almost all the makers. Actually, Heather and I came up with almost all the makers for Buffy Tarot. The problem, and then basically the issue with creating a Buffy Tarot, like a picture-based Buffy Tarot, is that the show was made in like the late 90s. And so it is very, very low def. And like making a good looking photographic tarot of Buffy would be basically impossible because the images are just not good enough quality. So just to put that out there, because we were talking about it. And
we were talking about it. We
were
had
like looking for
plans. We had our basically, I think bar 1 or 2, our entire majors was planned out. We knew who a large majority of our court cards were going to be. We were working on that.
Yeah,
but it's not as easy as making a Bang Tang tarot.
Yeah, no, definitely couldn't find the picture quality that we would have needed. So
yeah. Anyway, okay. So the next one that there are strong feelings about was strength.
This is one of the worst decisions in the entire.
This is Dawn, by the way. I sorry we don't have great, better camera quality, or I don't, but this is Dawn as strength. And we know that a lot of people did not really care. I mean, I found her quite annoying, yes, but I don't think I hated her as much as other people seem to have really hated her. I mean, So anyway.
I mean, I think Dawn was one of those characters where some people hated her. Some people were a bit like you, and they were like, yeah, she was kind of annoying, but I didn't have hugely strong feelings for her. But I didn't really like her either. Nobody that I'm aware of, I'm happy to be proved wrong, but then I'll just think you're a weirdo. Nobody in the history of Buffy has ever said, Dawn was one of my favorites. I thought she was a really great character. I've never heard anyone say that.
I mean, let's be real. Like, they actually managed to, like, in a totally, I don't know if you guys are all familiar with like Cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch, like how when a show is like sort of getting kind of like less popular, they bring in a kid character to suddenly spice things up. And the way that they did that with Dawn in a totally like meta way, I still find hilarious. Like, I think that that's actually kind of ingenious, the way that they brought in a kid character and had it actually be this thing where everybody acts like she was already there, which is just the normal thing that happens in shows when they bring in the kid character. Anyway, so I thought it was really, really funny. Like, she was relatively annoying as a character. I actually, in my most recent viewing of Buffy, which was prior to just recently prior to doing this, I found more of a soft spot in my heart for Dawn, because I think it's just being like further away from her age, and maybe also like the fact that my niece and nephew are like coming into their teenage years, where I'm sort of like have a little bit of more warm feeling toward a kid going through that shit and like understanding a little bit more about what they're going through. But yeah, she's nobody's favorite character. Let's be real.
Yeah.
And so the reason you two did not care for strength is, I don't know that did we touch upon that?
I don't think that Dawn's character represents strength very well. I think that, the whole reason that Dawn exists is, for those who don't watch the show, is she is this key. She's this energy that this god, Glory, is looking for in order to open a portal so she can go home. But in opening this gate, she will basically destroy our world. And Dawn is the key, and these monks want to hide this key. And because it can't protect itself in any way, they form it into the shape of a girl, and they insert it into Buffy's life and give them all fake memories so that they all think that she's Buffy's sister. So Buffy has this reason to protect her. I don't think and she just gets whinier. She doesn't get stronger as the series goes on. She gets whinier as the series goes on. I think if she had a character arc where she'd grown from that into a strong character, I would have seen it more. But I just don't think that happens with her.
I think she has some good moments, like in potential. Is it Potential? I think that was a shining moment for her. I think
Xander tells her she's extraordinary. She's extraordinary in that she has accepted being normal.
Yeah. And I think there were moments throughout that season where you know, we kind of see her more and more coming into her own, where, you know, we see that she has, she's been observing Buffy. So when it comes time that Buffy actually needs her help, Dawn is able to do pretty all right in defending herself. And, you know, in that cave situation, I can't remember what episode that was in, but like, so I think certainly in the beginning, I was just like, oh my God, why is she here? What, you know, I mean, I know why she's here, but like, oh, I can't stand her. But I think I did warm up to her as the season went on a little bit.
Yeah. I can see the argument for Dawn being strength, like, and potential, I think in particular, it does really exemplify what that argument is. My issue with it is two things. A, that I feel like the best strength card would obviously be Buffy. Like,
that's the choice we made, isn't it?
Yeah, everything about Buffy has to do with her, she trying to make peace with this part of herself, the Slayer part of herself, that is about darkness and about death. And despite that, still making her way in the world as a normal person and forming relationships and like being part of the world, despite the fact that she is having to save the world like every May, you know, like during the finale. So to me, like, Buffy is such an obvious choice as the strength card. And I also really wish that Dawn had been the star, because Dawn
was what
is Buffy's like guiding principle. Like, protecting Dawn becomes Buffy's guiding principle, and Dawn like represents the only hope for the world in terms of like defeating. And I know that that's like a little bit of a objectifying take on Dawn. You know, it's that's not really about Dawn's agency as a character. So I do get that criticism of that idea, but to me, Buffy is strength and Dawn is the star. Just makes so much more sense to me. So yeah,
because I mean, Kendra, I see where they're going with that. I just did not think it was a strong choice. You know, I mean, if we're anyway.
I'm not even sure where I would put Kendra, though.
I wouldn't put Kendra anywhere.
Oh, I love Kendra.
To be honest, yeah,
I love Kendra. She's
had a
such
bad
an important
accent.
character. And
yeah,
I think that massively underestimates how important that she is as a character, even if she only gets 3 episodes. She's a hugely important character, and she is so much fun to watch.
She's fun.
She deserves to be in the deck. If fucking Kennedy's in the deck, Kendra deserves to be in the deck.
Of course. Yeah, I actually agree. Yes, I agree there. I don't know. And again, this is me watching it years and years after the fact. So I'm having to hear this horrible accent that this actress is trying to use. And so it was just kind of like, you know, obviously I'm coming from a different lens. And I understand the importance of her character. I just did not think the star, I didn't like love her. I liked her all right. I think I didn't have that much of an attachment to her as a character, to be quite honest. I just didn't. So I think I agree. Dawn would have been, to me, the better star.
Although I think what Lisa's saying there is, you know, is really true. Yeah. Dawn, you know, has to figure out her own sense of self-worth. Yeah. And when you look at strength from that perspective, that works really well.
That is true. Yeah. And
I also love Kendra, Lisa. I think Kendra is fantastic. I think she's a great character. I think she's massively important at the end of that series. Her episodes are so important.
Oh wow.
I wouldn't put her as the star. I don't know where I'd put her.
I would put Kendra in the court somewhere personally. I would as the Queen of Wands maybe, or like that's where I would put Kendra personally. But she is obviously a really important character.
Yeah, no, she is.
You know, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I wouldn't have put her as the star necessarily.
No.
So, yeah.
Yes, Emily, Kennedy's in it. She is.
In rewatching the show,
I did not care for her.
See, this is so funny because, like, in rewatching the show, I found new love in my heart for Dawn, and I found even greater depths of hatred in my heart.
I've only watched season 7. Believe it or not, I've only watched season 7. once all the way through. I think maybe twice. I've watched seasons 1 to 6. Like seasons 1 to 3 are the ones I've watched the most, because every time I start a rewatch, I start again from the beginning, and sometimes I don't get all the way through. But I've only seen season 7 once or twice because I dislike it that much. It's such a bad season. If you like it, more power to you. You are never going to change my mind. It was a bad choice. It was just a bad choice.
I started losing steam, quite frankly, like in the middle, like season 6, and just there were some episodes where I'm just like, wow, we're really struggling to, you know, move this along, get some material. But on the whole, I didn't think it was. I don't know. I made it through. I watched it all. So.
Oh yeah, I watched it all. Trust me. But I mean, by that point, you were
done
to see it through. But I honestly believe that. I know we've had this conversation before, and I think that Buffy, honestly, hand on heart, if I'm being completely honest about it, Buffy should have ended when she died at the end of season 5. That was the
spoiler alert, by the way. Spoiler alert.
If you're here, I'm assuming that you're. Why are you here?
But then we wouldn't have had Once More with Feeling.
I know, but this is the conversation we always have. I'm like, it should have ended at the end of season 5. It was a good ending. But then we wouldn't get a musical episode, and that's one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Once More with Feeling, to me, not only the best musical episode of television ever, actually one of the best musicals ever. In my personal opinion, in terms of songs that fit the characters, that advance the story, that are actually really good, well-written songs. Like, everything about it is brilliant and genius, and I love it. So just gonna put that out there.
Yeah, I watched that as well, just once again when I was catching episodes randomly. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why are we singing? Like, I had no idea what was going on.
It's one of those episodes that occasionally I just watch that episode. I'm not really in the mood for anything else. I'll just put that episode on because it just makes me feel so good.
It's really good. It's really good.
I literally own the piano sheet music for that episode.
Oh, awesome.
Like, I have the soundtrack on CD. Like, I loved it so much. So
okay, well, so we talked about strength, and
the star. We talked
and this and the star, and you know, we loved, you know, the Hermit, and Chariot was all right, and but the next one that we were going to touch on is the Wheel of Fortune. So this is this image is of the very first vampire slayer. So, which I personally am like, okay. I mean, yeah, I can kind of see that, you know. But I don't know. Again, I feel like this was one where it's like, oh, they're wanting to put in some newer, or, you know, not keep recycling the same characters and putting in a different one. So I didn't hate this one.
I didn't hate it at all.
I actually like this one. I do.
But I think
we had
Cordelia,
didn't we, for Our Choice? And I just like Our Choice better.
Yeah,
which is a theme. I mean,
yeah. It's. I mean, I get the point of it. Like, to say that, like, because that is one of the really important things that is, you know, part of the whole ethos of the series, is that discovery that the first Slayer, this was done to her against her will, and Buffy eventually rejects what was done to her. You know, they try to give Buffy like more of the demon to make her a stronger Slayer, and Buffy's like, no, do not do that to me, and claims her agency, you know, against the men who created the Slayer. And like, that's really important to the series, and so I totally get that. I totally get that as the Wheel of Fortune. It works fine for me. But like, we had Cordelia because obviously eventually she becomes poor, and you know, her family loses all of their money, and she has to completely evolve as a person as a result of that. And so we, you know, that also works. It's just they're just two different takes on the card that I think would work. Yeah.
And I agree with Lisa. That's
totally.
That is how I saw it, as like a from the next.
And I think I mean, you could have put Kendra in the Wheel of Fortune. You could have put Faith in the Wheel of Fortune for those exact same reasons. Is that it's like that cycle of one dies and another one, and it just never ends. Like, it doesn't end with their death. They just move on to the next one.
All right, next one we want to talk about is the Hanged Man, right? Did we?
Yes.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So first of all, just from like an artistic aesthetic point of view, I had just problems with like just the perspective, because you're supposed to be like looking down on him, right? It's supposed to be like a top down view. He's lying on his sepulcher, or he's lying on his tombstone bed situation. But what really confused me is like the way the leaves are, and like the upside down candles, and like I don't know, I just felt like I wasn't sure which way I was supposed to be looking at it, but I think you are supposed to be looking at it top down. Am I correct? Okay. So that was, to me, really distracting, because I'm like, oh, well, I guess, is he hanging upside down? No, I don't think so, actually. But the way all the details are drawn, it looks like he should be, rather than it being kind of like a top down perspective. But anyway, not to pick on our artist. He did an interesting job, but anyway, okay. Thoughts on Spike as the Hanged Man?
I like our choice. So when Heather and I were coming up with our choices, we had Riley as the Hanged Man, and we liked it better.
I still think our choice was better.
Yeah, just right. Riley. For those who don't know, Riley was Buffy's boyfriend, but he was also sort of an undercover operative for this demon fighting government agency called the Initiative, right? And a lot of Riley's arc involves him discovering like the dark side of the Initiative and what these government scientists are actually doing, what they're doing to him, what they're doing in terms of experimenting and creating their own kinds of monsters. And eventually the Initiative has its whole downfall as a result of the sort of Frankenstein's monster that they create. But then Riley basically is left with like he has to go back to being a just normal Joe dude. He doesn't really have a place in the world. He doesn't really have a place with the Scoobies. He doesn't really feel like he and Buffy's relationship means as much to her as it does to him. And so he ends up in just this total limbo for most of season 5. And that, I think, is where Heather and I were going with Riley as the Hangman. So
yeah.
All right.
Yes, Beth, there definitely is a theme here. There is a lot of, I don't mind it, but I think
our choices were better.
Yeah,
because we're very humble today.
Yeah,
obviously.
Exactly. and also, like, I think we think they're better cards for Spike. So, like, this Sun card in this deck is really good. We have another card too that we thought might be good for Spike. So, we'll get there.
So, okay, next one is Death, which I love this. I love this. And this is my favorite episode. I would say one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, this is one of mine too. And this is the
gentleman. These were the gentlemen.
I got the deck when I was going through it for the first time. This was the first card that I was like, oh man, this is the perfect choice. I mean, not only because they're the most terrifying representatives of death in the entire series bar none. I think if you overthink about this episode too much, it's horrifying. It's horrifying.
And hilarious also. And just like all the things.
Touching, but it's
horrifying, hilarious, just it's so good. And these, like, okay, so not to get on tangent, but like, again, coming at it decades later, technology has changed, makeup artistry has changed, etc. So a lot of the beasts and paranormal like creatures and such, like I almost found comical, even though they were meant to be scary. These guys legit.
Oh, it holds up.
Freaks me
out.
Yeah.
It's still a terrifying episode. But I also think the reason this one is just so perfect is because of Hush as an episode. As a whole, like so many things happen in this episode. Like, again, spoilers, like, sorry, but this is where, this is the episode where Willow first meets Tara. This is the episode where Anya and Xander have their first like big moment together. This is the episode where Riley finds out about Buffy and Buffy finds out about Riley, and everything that happens in this episode creates so much change for the rest of the season and the rest of the series. It's such
So
a
good.
pivotal moment
So
in
good.
that season, and it's almost entirely done with no talking, which is just mind-blowing.
It's brilliant. Like this, Emily is talking about this scene. I died several times over.
Oh yeah.
The wife.
It's a funny
Oh my
scene.
God. It was amazing. Amazing. Yeah. So good. So good.
Also, that episode has probably the jump scare that I jumped the highest at in my entire life, which is that moment when Giles' girlfriend Olivia is looking out the window and the gentleman floats by right in front of the window. I levitated the first time I watched that. I jumped so high. Like, that scared the shit out of me. I can't. Oh my God. It's so freaking scary.
Oh
So,
my God.
It's
great.
Such a good episode.
So good.
It's so good.
For its time, it was such a good episode. And
Really
even
good.
now, it's just one of the best episodes of a series, bar
I
none.
agree.
It's so good.
1,000%.
Also, I think that was like Buffy's only Emmy nomination was for writing for Hush. I'm pretty sure that tidbit is true. That the only Emmy the show that was like so overlooked by criminally overlooked, but Hush, I believe, did get an Emmy nomination for writing. So yeah, it's a brilliant episode. Yeah.
All right. Next controversial card. The Tower, which I liked. I do like
Sorry, I'm talking a lot.
No.
I get carried away when it comes to Buffy, as you can tell. But I actually really like this card for the most part. I think it works. I just think our choice was better. So, because we had the school, Sunnydale High School, after it's been blown up, like after they've blown up the mayor, again, spoilers. And I think, again, it's that huge moment of change that comes with the tower, because there is such a strong difference between the first 3 seasons and once we go into season 4, not even just in the the arcs of the characters and the fact that they've left school and gone to college, but in the feel and the style and the darkness of the show. It changes completely from season 3 to season 4 onwards, and that blowing up of the high school is like that moment where everything is going to change.
I agree with that. I think, again, I think that this completely works as a tower. Like, it obviously, like, Buffy dies, like, it's a big deal, right? It works as a tower. And it has to do with Buffy sort of like, accepting things about herself and like what her purpose is, and like, and it absolutely makes sense. But I do feel like, yes, if you're talking on a meta level for the show as a whole, the destruction of Sunnydale High School, that all of the characters ended up in a completely different environment, in a completely different milieu, like, all of that happens. It is completely transformative for everybody. And like, when you think about it as like, when you think about Buffy, as everything in Buffy is a metaphor for actual adolescence and actual growing up, graduating from high school is such a huge freaking deal. Like, your whole life changes and you have to figure out who you are and what your direction is and where you're going. And like, to me, that is absolutely a tower moment. Like, so yeah, I mean, I think that also really, really works well for that card.
But I do think this one works well too. I think
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, when you're talking about the meaning of the tower, and that's something that happens that so fundamentally shakes the foundations of everybody's lives. What happens on the tower is another one of those moments. But I think that
the tower, like, it's an actual, it is an actual tower.
It is
like, there is that too, like, for sure.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Next one. So we have the moon, which we talked about earlier, that Drew could potentially have been the better choice for the moon, which I'm on board with, actually. I'm on board with, right? And I like Faith as the moon as well. Just because, again, it shows, as I was talking to Heather and Sarah earlier, I just feel like Faith was such a complex character. She was full of her own fears, She was full of, you know, wildness. And then also, yeah, she's just really, I don't know, just kind of a little of everything that I kind of see in the moon, you know, tapping into the wild side, also being afraid, you know, also trying to delude herself into thinking certain things to avoid the truth about herself and the the choices that she's made. So anyway,
yeah, for sure, it absolutely works. Absolutely works.
Yeah, I love Faith as the moon. I think for me that's a good card. I mean, the other obvious choice would have been Oz, but that's a little bit too on the nose. Like, let's make
on the nose, but yeah. I liked him as the hermit. I thought he was a great one.
I do too. I think that was a good choice.
Okay. Oh yes, and Emily makes a great point about the deception. Yes, yep, absolutely. So I think there's just so many pieces to her that are. She was actually one of my favorite characters, as painful as she was in a lot of ways to watch, to witness that. Anyway, all right, next one, Judgment. Anya as the Judgment card. So Sarah and Heather had a different choice.
Well, we did skip over the sun.
Did we skip over the sun? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Well, I think we all liked the sun, and I think the only issue with what Heather and I's choice would be for the Judgment card is that it follows up too closely on the sun. But I mean, for me, like Heather and I, when we were doing this deck, our choice for Judgment was Spike at the moment where he gets his soul back at the end of season 6. Like that was our choice for Judgment, because Heather was more eloquent about this before we started. I don't know, Heather, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying not to talk too much because But I think because Spike goes off and he fights this creature, and you know, that moment when he gets his soul back, he is being judged. That is what this creature does. It fights him and it judges him worthy or not worthy, and then gives him what he wants most, which is very well done, because you think that what he wants most is to be able to be a demon again and be able to, you know, have his chip removed. And there's a whole storyline there that I won't go into. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. And it turns out that what he actually wants is his soul back. And he gets it in that moment. I think it's a really powerful reflection of Judgment. And then, you know, he's like reborn. He's reborn again as almost human with a soul and the awareness of good and evil and all of that stuff. I just think, And also, while we're on the subject, because that is the scene they've chosen for the 9 of Stakes. Is that Spike scene. And for the 9 of Stakes, not even because I think that makes a good Judgment scene, but also for the 9 of Stakes.
This is the right here.
That doesn't work for me, because the 9 of Stakes to me is all about taking a break in the middle of a battle. And this moment, the battle is over. He's won.
Right.
He's proved himself worthy. He's fought enough to prove that he's worthy, and he's been judged worthy. There's no, like, it's not recollecting himself or taking a break or regathering his strength. He's done. So I find that one a really weird choice. Yeah.
Also, just that scene to me is too big of a scene to be a minor arcana card. Like it just doesn't belong. It doesn't belong there. Like that card to me, I look at that card and it says Judgment. Like that is what that card screams to me. Like it does not make sense to me in any way, shape, or form as the 9 of Wands. So, yeah. Anyway. Lisa wanted to know if. So we told the story a little earlier. Heather and I at one point were talking about making a Buffy tarot. This was after we had made our BTS tarot, and we like kind of ideated the entire major arcana for a Buffy tarot, but it's kind of impossible to make a photographic Buffy tarot because of the show is such low def that you can't get good screenshots of the show. Like it's impossible to actually make a photographic deck out of Buffy, because it was filmed in the late 90s and it's all very low res. So it just wasn't something we could ever do, sadly.
Yeah. All right. So, okay, so we talked about the judgment essentially. And the world, which was, Buffy as at the prom, the class protector award.
I'm sorry, can we go back one just real
Sure.
quick? Because I think the other thing about Judgment too is that they have Anya as Judgment, which definitely, I mean, it definitely works, and Anya goes through this whole transformation of going from demon to human, and then back to demon and back to human again. It's to me, it's the Spike transformation is a bit more powerful because it reflects so much a specific choice that he's making to be reborn as a human. And we also, like in our original the way that we had ideated the majors, we actually had Anya as Justice. Not to say that Angel doesn't also make perfect sense as Justice because of his whole atonement thing. Like, it absolutely makes sense. But we also kind of liked Anya as Justice just because of her, she's a vengeance demon. Like, her whole thing is enacting what she sees as justice on cheating men, basically. is who she brings down justice on. And there, it kind of gets at, in some ways, the ways in which maybe like a darker take on justice, like some of the ways in which justice can be blind or heartless, can be just a little bit too much about an eye for an eye. Like, Anya as Justice is kind of a fun option for that card, even though Angel absolutely also definitely works. But so we would have had Anya as Justice rather than Judgment, and then Spike as Judgment. So anyway, Sorry.
No, not at all. So I think we're actually done with the majors because everything else, we ended with the world, which is Buffy.
We didn't cover the sun, basically because we didn't talk about every major because there were so many that we were just like, yeah, I like that choice. It totally works.
This one totally works.
And we didn't really have anything to add, and we all feel like that about the sun. I think we were all like, it's it's such a great moment. Even though I hate season 7, it's such a great moment.
It's a really and like yeah, that's a great reason too why it wouldn't have made sense to have Spike as the Judgment card ultimately, because then you have two Spike cards in a row, and like we totally get the fact that like the creators of the deck had to think about those things when they were creating the deck. Absolutely, we are only talking from the perspective of tarot readers and Buffy fans, and not necessarily like people who had to create the deck and think about having like a balanced number of characters and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so why don't we then get into, we'll just do a fly through of the stakes and get some hot takes here. So of course, I think like all the aces we know are, they're
aces are
vanilla, they're basic bitch, and that's fine. And then we've got 2 of stakes as Buffy, she's on her way to do her typical,
Were we going to talk about the world? I'm sorry.
I wouldn't think we were, but if you would like to.
So I think Sarah had some stuff she
wanted to say. I'm sorry.
The only thing I wanted to say about the world is that what I would have picked for the world, again, the Class Protector Award completely works as the world. And yes, it's a very, very important moment to Buffy. It's another one of those moments that doesn't feel quite big enough for me to necessarily be the world. But the thing that I would have loved to see as the world is the moment in the 7th season when the Slayer's power is divided and all of the potential Slayers around the world are activated. Like that to me, because it's something that happens around the world, right? Like it like just for that like kind of shallow association, but also because it's this moment in which everybody who has this potential power is suddenly filled with that power. Like they're suddenly suffused with that power. And the fact that it's also the moment in which Buffy is like liberated from the burden of having to be the only chosen one in the entire world. It's like to me, it's so important that as a feminist show that Buffy is about how sharing power is what makes power bigger, as opposed to hoarding it for yourself. And so that to me is like the crowning moment of that whole ethos of the show, is that moment in which all the potential Slayers are activated and they are all given the powers that they were born to potentially have. And so so I just really would have loved that as the world. I don't know how you illustrate that on a card, but but from a from a moment in the show standpoint, that is the moment that for me feels the most like the world. So anyway, yeah. Like, yeah.
But I also agree that the Class Protector Award for the world is also a beautiful choice.
It's wonderful.
Like there's a moment, like I know it's coming. I've seen that season so many times, and it still makes me cry. It still makes me cry. It's such a beautiful moment.
It did make me cry. Yeah. Okay, so we went through Ace of Stakes, Two of Stakes. Lisa was talking about planning out which tools to take on her nightly.
Can I just go back and I just wanted to comment on this because I think this is an interesting point that like no one who's not a Buffy fan is going to buy the deck. Right. And I think that no one who is a Buffy fan necessarily should buy the deck because the guidebook is so bad that it makes it almost inaccessible if you don't know the series and you don't know what these scenes are depicting. The guidebook is so poorly done and has so many mistakes that you are never going to be able to make those connections unless before you buy the deck and then before you use it, you sit down and watch 7 seasons of Buffy, which I'm all for. Like I would advocate for that personally. But
by the way, I went through the deck and flagged every page where there is a mismatch between the card and the image. And these are all of my flags. Like there's like 20 flags in here. Yeah. There's so many parts of this guidebook where the description just doesn't even match the card. It's like a description for a completely different card. Yes. And
they are going to fix that. They are aware, perfectly aware, and they're going to fix it and whatever. It's like, okay, too little too late at this point, but you know, whatever. I
it's a real shame.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I can't see anybody who doesn't know Buffy would be interested in deck. And even if you were like, say, you hadn't watched your Buffy, you're not much of a fan, but you wanted to buy the deck, I would still find this deck, even with an updated guidebook, to be a little difficult because it's with the understanding I think that they wrote it with the understanding that you have watched the show. So they're not going to go into complete exposition of every episode, of every, scene. They do a little bit here or there, but to really get the deck in all its glory, I do feel like you need to know your Buffy. You need first run through of Buffy. So
and it's like specific too, like even like when I was going through and I looked at the 10 of Stakes, it took me a second to be like, okay, that's Faith killing Kakistos.
Yep.
Like if you haven't watched Buffy a couple
and you don't know Buffy,
you won't remember. Like it's not easy to remember all that stuff. Right. Like it is actually a very.
I mean, there's 7 seasons,
right? It's a very fan deck.
Like 1,000 episodes per season back in the day when it was like how many episodes per season because it was on cable, as opposed to now when it's just like 8 episodes a season, like on streaming. Oh my God, I was not used to that at all. I'm like, how many episodes are we
doing? 23, Julie. There's 23.
Oh, the old days of regular seasonal TV when they actually had 20
seasonal TV.
Yep.
Anyway, okay, so Sarah, since you have flags, kitty flags, by the way, they're all
they're kitties.
We should go? Why don't we go in order and just kind of riff off of like what you've got? That might make a little sense.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. In the guidebook, the courts come before the minors, and I do think that an important stakes court to talk about is Andrew as the Knight of Stakes, because that makes no sense to me. Sorry, like 0 sense to me whatsoever. Andrew is like a cowardly wimp. Like he does stupid stuff, but he needs a lot of goading to actually do that stupid stuff. Somebody has to like talk him into it over a long period of time to actually get him to do it. Like nothing about him to me is Knight of Wands. So anyway,
yeah. I agreed. I was a lot of the court cards. I kind of scratched my head. I mean, again, like you could. I feel like a lot of these you can kind of talk your way into thinking, well, I can make it work, and there have been a much better choice. I agree with the whole Andrew.
I mean, I feel like a lot of them they like sort of work you know, that one in particular for me just like doesn't work at all. Like at all. Like nothing about Andrew is Knight of Wands to me in any way.
If anything, he's more in the sword suit for me. Somewhere there. Like, I don't know. Just
I don't know.
Or even in some episodes I can see some cups. But wands, no. I think of all the suits, stakes is not. No. Anyway,
sorry. Yeah. So the next one I have the 3 of stakes. The description is a total mismatch with the card.
Yes,
that one just feels a little lazy to me.
This is lazy, just from an artistic point of view, because the artist does such a great job in most of the other images of putting in like so many details and knobs and certain things. And because there's a mismatch with this and the guidebook, I get the feeling that this was like a quick and dirty, like, oh, we're at the deadline. You know, we need to get this shit like done and dusted.
And there's so many cards where you're like, oh, I know exactly what this scene is, or oh god, yeah, I know which episode that's in. Where this is just Vampire Willow.
Yeah. I mean,
a stick.
Yeah. I mean, because if we think about what like 3 of stakes and the whole idea of, I mean, depending on the way you read it, you know, there's journey and progress and all of these things. I mean, I think Doppelgangland, I guess, would be the most, you know, because she is transported back into Sunnydale from her alternate universe, and trying to ultimately find her way back to where she was because she's bored. So I mean, but then again, I feel like I was stretching it because I'm like, I don't think this was a strong choice at all. For me anyway, I did not.
This perfectly sums up how I feel about this card because I love
exactly. Totally. Vamp Willow, for sure.
But really.
Makes no sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next one I had the 5 of stakes, which is Giles in A New Man, where he becomes a demon. I understand why they picked this because Giles, when he becomes a demon, he actually sort of over time starts to gradually really become the demon and get very testy and irritable and wanting to fight everybody. And so I definitely get that as the 5 of Wands. I think that there could have been better choices for it. Yeah. The description talks about the episode The Pack, which has
I see. I think that would have been the better one.
Favorite early season episodes. I love The Pack. I think it's a great episode. Xander is so hot in that episode.
And if anything, this to me almost feels like a 7 of Wands because in this episode, like he can't speak, like he thinks he's speaking in English, but he's speaking in demon tongue, that's what other people hear. And he's constantly dodging, like the other characters throwing things at him, running away, like being chased. I really enjoyed this episode. This was a really fun one. So I almost feel like it's more 7 of like stakes, in that aspect than a 5. But that's just me.
Yep, I do get that. The 6 of stakes, I find again just a little bit of an odd choice. So to me, I would have made this the Class Protector Award personally. Is what I would have made the 6.
That's a good one.
If you have a different world card, then you put the Class Protector Award in as the 6 of Wands because it is about Buffy for the first time actually getting recognition. She's behind the scenes saving all of these people all the time and thinking that nobody knows other than to think that she's weird. And the Class Protector Award is when everybody finally says, hey, you know what? We actually noticed
what
you're doing for us.
Yes.
And we appreciate you. And like that to me is very 6 of Wands. So
I cried.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I cry in that episode. Everybody cries in that episode. We all cry every time.
Yeah.
It's such a good moment.
Yeah. It's a beautiful moment.
It really is.
I think, yeah, I'm sold. Let's change that one.
Yeah.
Let's do a redo. Let's do it. Okay. Next up.
So next up, let's see. Again, we've already talked about the 9 of stakes and like the fact that we would have done something different with Spike. I find the 10 of stakes really interesting. The description doesn't reference Faith killing Kakistos at all. description is totally wrong.
Reference is Buffy.
I do get I like the image because the whole concept of Faith killing Kakistos, like when Faith initially comes to Sunnydale, like she has injured this big bad demon, Kakistos, and doesn't it runs away, basically. Like she runs away from the fact that she's done this, and then she finally like accepts her responsibility and kills this guy. And like, yeah, there's definitely an element of Ten of Wands there in terms of like accepting responsibility, taking on the burden that you've created and actually dealing with it. Like that's definitely very Ten of Wands, but it makes me crazy that the guidebook doesn't explain that, because unless you've literally watched season 3 like 10 times, you're not going to remember that this actually is what happened. So it just, it's just not a very...
I like this choice as well. And again, but it feels like a rush job in terms of like graphics, because it just seems so sparse. And so it almost seems like, oh, here's another one where we got to quickly like change it up. So I need to quickly draw this one up and get it done, because it's.
But I think I actually think, which I think is what you're saying, Sarah. I think that this is a good choice. This is a good choice for this card. It works really well. But if you know nothing about Buffy,
then this doesn't.
Then from that image, you're not going to get any of what this is about, and why this particular image is such a good choice.
Yeah,
right. And it's a very specific episode. Like it's a very specific episode in the show, you know. So, but you need to explain what it's about if you want people to get it. So
yeah.
And also the scars on the wrong side of his face, but that's okay.
Okay. All right. So chalices. I don't know if like I am okay with most of the chalice courts. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on them. My favorite one is Spike as the Knight of Chalices.
Yes, I think that was
perfect. I think that's a perfect choice.
Like it's him as William.
Yes,
that's so good. And the other ones I'm like, nah, okay.
Yeah. I feel pretty good about the chalices.
I do. Like, yeah. Like, yeah.
We're all very meh on the courts in a lot of ways.
I mean, I do actually really like Giles as the King of Chalices. I mean, not really so much this image, but what he represented when I watched the show as very much a father figure. Yes, he can be King of Swords. Yes, he can be Hierophant. But I mean, the way that he looks after all of those characters, because really, I mean, Willow's family life, Xander's family life, their parents are kind of like problematic or absentee or, you know, whatever. And he really takes on that kind of fatherly role with all of them. So,
and I think that definitely over and above everything else, that is what Giles represents in the Buffy world. He is that father energy, especially early on when there's a lot more about Buffy and her father and that like deterioration of that relationship to the point where he basically just disappears off the face of the earth and is never seen or heard from again, apart from a random phone call in season 6.
I think he's a great choice. I wouldn't have picked this particular scene or image.
That's cute. It's cute.
Yeah, I like it. I think
I
think you could literally have taken any image of Giles from this season and just stuck it on that card and it would have worked.
Exactly. The other thing that I really like about Giles as the King of Cups is the way that he views power. Like when you think about the fact that Giles literally, like, because of his caring for Buffy, not just as a watcher but as a human being, and eventually ends up like losing his job with the Watchers Council fires him because he cares about Buffy on an emotional level more than he cares about making her the perfect Slayer. You know, like that to me, it says something about like what Giles values, you know, and it's not just about like even just being a father figure, but it's about valuing humanity more than valuing the power that you can get, you know, from certain institutions and that kind of thing. So that to me is also very, very King of Cups.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Speaking of Giles, can I just say that like 6 of Chalices from Band Candy, like even though I don't think that was meant to be the original card. But him and Band Candy, I loved that so much. Him and Joyce together.
Yep.
That was like, I think that was actually the better choice than
They had Mr. Gordo. The description was Buffy's toy.
Yeah. And I'm just like,
whatever. But yeah, I agree. It's a total mismatch with the description, but Band Candy is so hilarious. And
it's such a good episode.
It's such a funny episode. And if you're just going for the sort of nostalgia factor of the Six of Cups,
exactly,
it's a hilarious choice for the Six of Cups. So.
Yeah, it really is. I love it so much. Here it is. Sorry. I was like, because I just thought it was so funny and just a fun way to look at younger Giles, Ripper, whatever, Joyce, and oh my gosh, so good. Yeah.
Can I ask if you guys noticed something about the aces in particular? Because I actually did note this. Did you notice that in the aces, in the ace of stakes and the ace of scythes, it's a human hand holding the symbol, but in the ace of cups and the ace of pentacles, it's like a demon hand holding the symbol. Yes. And any thoughts as to why that is? Like, I just sort of, I noticed it, but I didn't really give it that much thought. So
no, I don't think I even noticed it.
I noticed it, but I'm just like, oh, they're alternating. Demon hand, demon hand. That's as deep as I went with that.
Fair enough. I think it's quite possible that's also as deep as they went.
That could very well be. I suppose that's true.
I'm not sure if there is hidden depth there.
No. All right.
And if there is, that's the kind of thing that would be handy to put in the guidebook so people know what you're doing.
Yeah, and which is too bad because honestly, what's her name? Casey Gilly. Mm-hmm. She's good. She knows her Buffy.
Yeah,
she's written some Buffy comics.
She's written Buffy comics. Yeah, she knows her Buffy. Yeah, it's such a shame. Anyway, okay, next up.
I do actually want to talk about the Five of Chalices because there is a mismatch between the card and the description, and both would have been good. And I'm just curious as to what you guys think. So the card here shows Buffy after she kills Angel or sends him into a hell dimension at the end of the second season. She runs away from Sunnydale and she basically goes to LA, becomes a waitress, like takes on a new identity just to escape from what she's done and escape from her friends. And she's been kicked out of her house at that point because her mom can't accept that she's a slayer and like all this stuff. And so I really like this depiction of her because it very much shows her immersed in her grief and really losing her focus on what her real life is as a result of what she's gone through. And I like the fact that, it shows her as a waitress and there's the spilled cups of coffee on the floor and everything. I think it really works. Interestingly, the description is about when Willow after Tara dies, when she starts to finally have feelings again for annoying Kennedy, and they kiss for the first time, and then Willow, this whole remorse spell takes over, and Willow turns into Warren, who is the evil person that she killed. And I can see why they didn't make that an illustration because, like, how can you tell if it's Warren or if it's actually Willow Warren?
Yeah, like how do you do that?
Yeah,
but as a Five of Cups, like that's a really interesting concept. I feel like so. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I liked it. I liked them both. I definitely had they were both powerful. I liked both episodes, and I think they're both great choices. I had a soft spot for the whole this episode. The one that they chose ended up choosing image-wise. That I liked that. I like them both, though. I do, but I do think it would have been difficult to try to relay that in an image with whole Warren,
with Willow and Warren. Like I'm the same. I think they're both really good choices. I really like this Five of Chalices. Yeah. It's one of the ones I picked out as one of my favorite choices. But I do think that Willow becoming Warren is a good choice.
Absolutely.
Again, how you would actually depict that so that you would know that that's what is happening,
right?
Without then having to heavily lay it out in the guidebook.
In the guidebook, exactly.
I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah. Which is why they probably didn't.
Why they changed their mind and then forgot to change their guidebook.
It's not on.
So another one that I thought was I'm sorry. I don't mean to take over. Just
no. You're doing good. You're leading.
No, this is more
brilliant.
Yeah.
So the eight of chalices is very interesting to me.
Talk about this one.
Yeah, let's talk about this one. So the eight of chalices. First of all, there's a mismatch again between the description and the card. And the card, I mean, it's a little bit violent for an Eight of Cups, I feel like, in terms of, I get that they're leaving town. Like this is a situation where, you know, Buffy has decided like she can't fight Glory. She can't protect Dawn from Glory. So they get this rickety old camper van and like drive out of town. And while they're driving out of town, they end up getting attacked by these other guys, and a whole long story. But like, I don't know. It's a weird Eight of Cups to me. Like I
hate it.
Okay.
I mean, they're not really leaving their problems behind, are they? They're kind of just taking them with them because
they're running away.
Top of the RV.
They're running away.
Yeah,
and that is not what Eight of Cups symbolizes to me. And then put it on top of that, it's this scene of all things where they're fighting the whatever. What are they called? I don't even remember. The night
dudes. Yeah. There's like Glory, and then there's the night dudes.
And then there's the night dudes, the temple. Yeah. I hate it. I hate it. And you know how I feel about the Eight of Cups. So it's like that's a special card to me. And I hate this one so much. The end. Yeah. I just don't think this was a good depiction at all.
No. And I do think the overall idea of the scene, like I know you disagree, Julie, because of the running away thing, but I do actually think it works. They're leaving everything behind to, you know. But I just think, I think then choosing to depict it in that way with the battle and being chased on horseback and all that, I think that was a weird moment of that scene to pick.
Yeah.
For this card, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, for this card, I would have picked Tara leaving Willow after Willow does magic on her against her.
Yes. That would have been perfect.
Like that.
That would have been perfect. Yeah. I mean, in a sense, I understand, like they chose it because yes, they are physically leaving. That is what the Eight of Cups shows, the tradition. This person physically walking away, but to Heather's point, that particular scene of them fighting, you know, and also again, it just doesn't resonate in terms of how I see it as not really even it's not a physical, you know, it's a resolute choice to walk away from something that might not service you. And to me, this felt more like I'm hopeless and I'm resigned to running away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So that doesn't, to me, there's more agency in the Eight of Cups, the way I read it. And that whole arc of the plot did not feel like, you know, them exercising any agency in the situation, more just like, shit, well, we're going to lose. So let's get out of here.
And it's also, I mean, and it's very much Buffy in that moment. Like it's agency in terms of she is saying, look, I can't handle this and I need to protect my sister at all costs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like I get that. And like so much of Buffy at the end of season 5 is so driven by, like, it's not even about power for her. It's about, I need to protect my little sister. You know, like she even is like, I'm not going to let anybody do anything to this kid. She tells Giles off because even Giles starts having a thought of like, it does make sense to get rid of Dawn in this situation, you know? So I mean, I get that aspect of it, but again, I do feel like in a way it's driven by her sense of powerlessness after Glory like beats the shit out of her so many times.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know what to do, you know?
I would have handled that piece much better. I would have been on board, mostly on board with that. The whole idea of like, I need to look after Dawn. And so this is the choice I'm making. Despite the fact that like it's, you know, really not the choice I would have wanted to make. It's like I have no choice kind of thing. So this is my choice because I have no choice. But and if they would have found a way to illustrate that, I probably would have liked it a little better than how much I hate this one.
Yeah.
I like they're talking in the comments. So Lisa's saying about Angel, the moment with Angel at the fire truck.
Oh, I know.
That would have been good too.
I know. Yes, that's so good. See, so many. They should have just come to us and asked us to like make the deck.
I know, right? Between us, we would have made a perfect deck.
Between all of us here and in the chat, oh my God, it would have been banger.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then we would have got an Angel and Buffy moment somewhere in the entire deck.
That wasn't her killing him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, that
although
we'll get there. Yeah.
We'll get there, but yeah.
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 Anyway.
So, so next up, I do find the 10 of Cups a little weird.
I liked it.
So
Can we talk about the 9 of Cups?
Oh yeah, we can talk. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's not skip the 9 of Cups. The 9 of Cups. Go ahead, Heather.
Because the 9 of Cups, I think, is such an interesting choice.
Interesting.
This is once more with healing. This is once more with
So
healing.
this is like
the witch devil, the witch demon.
This is the demon who basically curses them all with the need to sing and dance everything, but at a cost. They end up dancing themselves to death, or they end up singing about things that they would never say out loud and ruining their relationships and all sorts. And it's that the 9 of Cups is normally so like getting everything that you desire and blah blah blah. And I love that they've taken this down a slightly more darker route of sometimes getting all the good, nice, pleasurable stuff. It's not as nice and good as you think it is. It can come at a cost, and it can be dangerous. And I actually really like the choice they've made here.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is really, really interesting. And it never mind. I don't know where I was going. Sorry. I'm talking too much. So
cool. All right. So then 10 of Chalices.
Yeah, 10 of Chalices. Like, this to me is such an interesting choice. I mean, I do like, again, I get it. It doesn't really have this sort of emotional fulfillment feel to me that like the 10 of Chalices should have. Like this again is the moment when Willow does magic to imbue the power of the Slayer into all the potentials throughout the world, which again is what I wanted to be the world card. But setting that aside, to me, that's not so much about emotional fulfillment, like it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't quite fit to me. There's only one person in the picture. Like it's. And
I love that. That's what I love, because to me, it was, this whole time she is, after the whole, like, the evil Willow, takes over and does all she, and then, she goes on her little solace journey with Giles, and she has so much doubt in herself and so much fear and so much, I mean, there's such potential there, and people have faith in her, but sometimes she doesn't really have faith in herself. And then when we get to this moment, where she is doing for the good of others, for the love of Buffy and her, her family, her friends, which are her family, and the world, and then stepping into her power this way, and her becoming like white-haired and just like, I loved that scene so much. So to me, it was just like the fact that it was almost like a healing moment for her, and the moment where she really comes into herself. So to me, I really liked it. Yeah, I really liked it. I liked it better than I like it when the 10 of Cups is a solitary figure. A lot of times, I know people don't, but I really, really love it.
Yeah.
And and Lisa is saying, like Willow experiences pure bliss in that moment. And she like falls over, and she's just like, oh my God, that was so awesome. Like,
yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like I love the moment, and again, it's almost a moment that in a way feels a little too big, even to be.
That's true, actually.
That's true. But which I think is why I just. Yeah, which is why I think I would have wanted something slightly different for the 10 of Cups. Not to say it doesn't work, but again, I totally see what you're saying, Julie, about how their relationships do absolutely and emotional connections do come into that moment for sure. And that is absolutely true. So I definitely get it. I wish it had been something different. I just don't know what.
I don't for the 10 of Chalices, I don't know what I would pick. I don't have a specific scene in mind, but there's scenes, especially throughout like early season 6, when they're all living, like Tara and Willow are living in Buffy's house, and Xander's coming around and fixing things, and like there's moments throughout season 6 where they're all in the house and they're all just living their lives together as like this little family that they've created that I think would have made a really lovely 10 of Cups. Just a scene of them just existing outside of the constant battles that their lives have been for since they were at school. I think there's just, and they're small enough moments that I think they would have worked for a minor.
Yeah.
I love this idea, Lisa, the end scene of the very last episode where they've won, they're done for a while. They can go be together and just be for a little while. Like, I like
There's
that.
Helmoth in Cleveland.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Helmoth in Cleveland, let's not forget. That is true. But yeah, no, I really love that idea, Lisa.
That's a great idea. That is a great idea. Next up.
So let's talk about the scythes or swords courts. We've got Mayor Wilkins as the king, Jenny Calendar as the queen, which I love. Glory as the knight, and Amy as the page. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I love Jenny Calendar as the Queen of Swords. I love that. The rest I'm a bit like, I can take them or leave them. I don't really have strong feelings either way, but I again, Jenny Calendar as the Queen of Swords is another one of my favorite choices in this deck. I think it works really well.
Totally agree.
Totally. Yeah, I like her. At first I was like, oh, I mean, I could have even seen Buffy as the Queen of Swords, quite frankly, as well. Or even King of Swords. Queen, and also like Cordelia in a weird way, or Anya as a Queen of Swords. I don't know, but I think they were just fresher. Especially Anya's fresher in my mind, just because she took up a lot of the seasons. But yeah, I like Jenny Calendar fine.
I do agree with this, Lisa, with Glory as the knight, with all the chaos in her mind and her being so impulsive and like obnoxiously honest, and like she does definitely have like a very, very Knight of Swords energy, I feel like. So yeah, I really agree with that.
Amy as the Page of Sides, like I do get it. Yeah, I get it, but I don't know. It felt very underwhelming, I suppose. This episode, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get the feeling like they're just needing to pick, like, once again, like they don't want to repeat characters. So, and this dude, the mayor as the king, like, I understand why I mean, really, he is. He really is methodical. Like at first I'm like, oh, really, they chose him? But I mean, he really is methodical, and he is always like 5 steps ahead. Even after his death, I mean, he leaves like a recording for Faith, kind of like ascertaining what might happen in the future, and like gives her that body switching tool, and so he just is very calculated and strategic and all that, in the worst way, but whatever. I understand why they chose it.
For sure.
Yeah. Cool. But yeah.
So another card that I find really interesting in the sides is the 2. The description talks about Riley, but the image shows Ben. Glorious alter ego, which I actually love. I love Ben as the 2 of, like, I think that's kind of like a really fun choice personally.
I think so too.
Yeah, I like that choice.
Yeah. And it's like funny that he's wearing his like glory robe. I really like that choice. So yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, the 6th of Sides is kind of interesting to me, because there's like complete weird mismatch between the card, the description, and I'm not even sure if I agree with any of them necessarily.
Right here we have the card is Oz, and he turns into a werewolf, so he's a werewolf. So that's what we see in the card.
And like, you know, again for the 6, like I get why Oz was the hermit, for example, because like, yes, he does have to like go on this journey of self-discovery, and he has to figure out how to control the wolf, and so he does leave, and so there is that element too, like in the 6 of Wands, you know, or the 6 of Swords. I mean, you can talk about that whole question of you know, leaving behind a situation that you know, that you can't make work, but the card, I feel like, just doesn't reflect any of that very well. So yeah, just the illustration itself, I feel like, doesn't work very well.
I agree.
So
yeah.
And I mean, like I get it. I get the whole thing about Oz leaving, but they should have done a better. They should have had him like in his
illustration-wise. Exactly. Illustration-wise, that's not what we're seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think the illustration needed to be better.
Yeah, exactly.
Depicting that, or the guidebook needed to talk about that. That's what it was, and I am assuming that the new guidebook, when it's re-released, will do that. But on its own, just looking at that card on its own, it's difficult to figure out what's going on and what that has to do with the meaning of this. Exactly. But when you know, like, you know the story there, and you know, yes, he goes off, that like he literally leaves because of the conflict, and he doesn't leave the conflict behind. He still has to learn how to control the wolf and all that kind of stuff. It totally makes sense as a choice, but it just it isn't easy to see that that's what they're trying to do with the image that they've picked, I think.
Exactly. Well, and it's weird. The description, the upright meaning doesn't talk about Oz at all. The reverse meaning does, but not. It doesn't talk about Oz actually leaving. Like, it's all, everything about this card is very weird, and like it's just did a bad job with this one. Yeah. So anyway, what do you think of the 8 of Sides with Professor Walsh?
I understand why they chose. I mean, I don't know, because I feel like I understand, but in I wouldn't have chosen this scene if we were going to use her. I wouldn't have chosen this scene to illustrate 8 of Sides. I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it just feels like they wanted to include Professor Walsh. I feel like there could be better choices for this particular card.
Oh yeah,
it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it works, you know, but it doesn't like light my world on fire, I guess.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because I think they were trying to play on the fact that like her eyes are effed up when she, you know, is whatever this is that she is. And so they're kind of playing on that with the whole blindfold thing, you know, taking it a step further that way, right? So maybe that's why, but I don't know. I think that's a stretch as well.
Yeah. To me, it's just kind of a weird choice.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
that said, I do think that the 9 and 10 of Sides are brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah, so do I. I think
absolutely
perfect. Very, very good.
9 is Buffy. Vampire Buffy.
And it is her worst nightmare.
It is her worst nightmare.
You know, they show you that in the episode Nightmares. It is her worst nightmare.
And then 10 of Sides. Yes, we see Angel and Buffy together.
Yeah.
But like the most heartbreaking episode.
My God, when I watched this for the first time, I watched it on tape. Like, this is a segue, sorry, but I watched it on tape. I was living with someone at the time, and he'd already seen it. And I watched it on VHS, and he gave me no warning whatsoever. And I came downstairs, and I was trying to be mad at him. But I was sobbing so hard that I literally could not get words out of my mouth. And I think I sobbed for a good 35 minutes. Get me like a cup of water, and I was heartbroken. Like, genuine. I felt like somebody I loved had just been stabbed through the heart in front of my eyes. That's literally how I felt. It was devastating. One of the most devastating moments of my life.
Yeah, it was tough for sure.
Yeah,
it was tough. I knew, however, that was going to happen pre-watching everything in order. So that did take a little bit of a bite away, because I watched it all out of context. I'm like, well, that sucks, but I'm not sure what came before. So
yeah, I think it's a really good choice, because I think it's
yes, it really is.
That whole thing, you know, Buffy is it's the whole thing is about betrayal, isn't it? That whole storyline. Like, all right, he lost his soul and he didn't do it on purpose, but there's nothing more hurtful or that can portray a teenage girl more than the first time that she has sex with anybody ever. He turns into a complete asshole and tells her that she was bad and makes fun of her in front of her friends and demeans her. Like, he did just in so many ways. That whole thing is about betrayal, and then that ultimate moment of betrayal where he gets his soul back and she tells him she loves him, and then she kills him. It's just I can't even talk about it without going all
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, it is high tragedy, that moment of the show. And yeah, to me, it's an absolutely perfect 10 of Swords. Yeah.
So what are the thoughts about the Buffy episode where she's in the mental institution?
I find that episode so challenging. I hate the way that episode ends.
It's very challenging.
It just, like, I think the whole episode is really clever, but the last 10-15 seconds of that episode, I'm like, why though? Why would you do that? Why would you do that though?
To me, that would be like a 9. I would like that. I would, because that episode almost in a way plays on all of our fears. Like,
right.
Like, yeah. Like, I mean, the fear that everything we were watching and invested in is actually fake and is a figment of the imagination of a person who is severely mentally ill. Like that. It's deeply upsetting. That
it is. I don't want to talk about it anymore, actually.
And so to me, like there's a big 9 of Swords element to that episode.
It's just so.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Yeah. Anyway.
So, okay. So shall we move on to any thoughts on the Pentacles courts?
I mean, honestly, I understand. Okay. I definitely think Riley as Knight of Pentacles. Yes. Right on.
Yeah.
You know, King of Pentacles and Queen of Pentacles, I get it. I get it. And I know they didn't want to like reuse other characters. I just feel like these weren't necessarily the strongest choices, or even the way they're illustrated, like I forget his name.
I just don't know if you ever really learn enough about Nikki Wood.
That's the thing. I'm just like,
to be able to say, yes, her character is Queen of Pentacles.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Spend enough time.
She's in like 2 episodes briefly, like total 5 minutes and everything. Well, maybe more like 7, but like that's my thing with the Queen, and it's almost like they wanted to like do matchy or something. I'm not sure, but so.
And I get it. I get the whole mothering like.
Well, she's being
element from his perspective, because his whole thing is that she was taken away from him, and she is his mother, and he wants to, you know, revenge her and all that. So I kind of get the mothering connection through Robin, but I don't get it enough in her as a character.
Exactly.
To make that choice.
Yeah. I get it too. And then with Robin, it's like, I can see it from like, I mean, he's kind of gained as just being like not a slayer and more like just like a human being. Like he's gained mastery of kind of, you know, stepping into his mother's shoes in a sense. And also just as a principal, you know, of the high school. So I just don't know, like this scene to me is what I had a problem with this scene. It was not a shining moment. So to me, for this to be like the scene that's depicted as the King of Pentacles doesn't work for me. Yeah. So I don't know.
I think, I like what Lisa says here. Like, I think that they are important characters who should be in the deck. I think it's a little lazy to put them here.
Yeah, I agree.
That's sort of how I feel about it. Like, I actually think that Robin is a better King of Swords, personally, and especially in this moment, that's him being highly strategic.
Yeah, that's true.
He set up this whole thing
to kill
Spike to get revenge. Like that, it's a very, very strategic act that he's undertaking here. So
Yes.
so it's that particular scene. I don't know. So I definitely think they should be in the deck. The other thing I think that's interesting about the Queen of Pentacles, Nikki is the Queen of Pentacles, is that in that entire scene, because I just watched this the other day, where Robin and Spike are fighting, and what Spike points out is that Robin isn't just angry at Spike for taking his mom away. He's angry at his mom.
Yeah.
For not
being there.
Not giving up her vocation as a slayer.
Exactly. To be there for
mother.
him. Yeah.
And so I don't know. I feel like there's so much more nuance to those characters and storylines than is captured by just sort of like making them the King and Queen of Pentacles. You know, like I feel like there's more to it there. And that this is actually a little bit of a lazy choice in my personal opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is this Amanda as Page of Pentacles?
Yeah.
Yes. Which, like, sure. I mean,
yeah, sure.
It's one of those where it's like, yeah, it could have been any of the potential slayers, I guess. You know. Yeah. But yeah, I just it's okay. It's fine. I like Amanda. I like that actress.
I do like Amanda.
So yeah. So
anyway,
but it's sort of fine. So I think we both probably feel pretty fine about the Ace and the Two of Pentacles, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And Three of Pentacles.
And trio, like the three.
You know, the trio as the Three of Pentacles, which originally in the guidebook was supposed to be.
I mean, the guidebook doesn't match up at all.
Right, it doesn't match. So it was, you know, the guidebook is talking about Willow, Xander, and Buffy together, which also tracks. But I think, in my opinion, it's because they used those three for the Three of Cups. They didn't want to do a repeat, so then they switched it to.
But I like that, and I don't know if this was deliberate, but there's just like every so often they just make choices that just very slightly highlight the sort of darker elements of a card, and they don't do it with every card. They just, like the 9, they did it with the 9 of Chalices. They've done it with, and I think they've done it with this one. Yes, they could have gone with the Scoobies. That would have been an obvious choice, but I think by choosing the 3, they've just subtly highlighted the darker aspects.
Absolutely,
working together as a team and what that can mean. I think I actually think it's a good choice.
I like it too. I wasn't mad at it. Yeah, I wasn't mad at it at all.
Yeah, I think it makes it more interesting, personally. So yeah, I really like that one, and I just wish the guidebook matched.
Same.
You know, not to hope on that or anything, but anyway. And I like the Magic Box is the 4.
I would have liked to seen like inside the Magic Box. I mean, I understand. Again, this was one where I was just like, meh, okay. It was an underwhelming image.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea. I just, you know, whatever.
Yeah. So the 5 is interesting though, because the 5, the description talks about Cordelia.
Yes.
The image shows Glory's minions. But I would have preferred Cordelia here.
I would have as well.
So
as well.
Yeah, I just what do you think, Heather?
I could go either way. I do like the image that they've chosen. I do think that, and I think there's kind of like that, you know, if you think about these characters from the perspective of after Glory is beaten, like where do they go? What do they do now? What do they live for? What they're like out in the cold. She was their entire reason for existing. And their religion, if you like, and now they don't have that anymore. What does that mean for them as people? And how do they move forward? And I actually think that's a choice that works for me.
I think it works. I just think they're not important enough, and it should have been Cordelia.
Exactly. I found them low-key annoying, actually. So I'm just like, I don't really need them in my deck, but whatever. It's fine.
The 6 of Pentacles, I think, is interesting too, because the 6 of Pentacles, is this Anya or Helfrich?
Anya.
Is it? Because I thought it was Helfrich.
Right.
But isn't that Anya's necklace?
Well, but
Helfrich has a necklace as well. They all have necklaces.
They do, but I thought that, I don't know. It could be Helfrich, but I thought Helfrich has like really curly hair.
See, I guess that's how I saw it. Well, yeah, I don't know.
I think this was Anya, but that could be me.
Yeah, I mean,
either works.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, I mean,
Halfric was Queen of Cups.
She was. Yes,
she was. Yeah, she was. Yeah.
Which was an interesting choice, but she was actually a very, she was a little passive aggressive as a friend, but she also was a genuine friend to Anya.
Counseling her.
But I don't know. What do you guys
think? The Queen of Cups works for Halfric because her whole thing is like young people. Like she has this over nurturing nature about her that she like, and I just think that really works for the Queen of Cups.
Okay. So Lisa did extensive research.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's Anya. Okay. Which again, I mean, it's an interesting choice as a Six of Pentacles. Like to see her sort of like, I feel like the idea is like she's doling out wishes to some people, but to other people, which is like, interesting. And again, the guidebook doesn't match at all. So the guidebook talks about Cordelia again. So there's no like full indication of what this necessarily was supposed to mean. I mean, I think that it works. I don't know if it would have been my first choice, but it works.
I mean, I actually did like the guidebook description. I thought that I didn't mind that either. The one with Cordelia and Xander
getting her the dress
out. Helping her out. I mean, I think that was really sweet actually. So I did not mind. I liked the description. I don't know how that would have been illustrated,
right?
You know what I mean? Like again, like showing that. Anyway, so I didn't mind the Anyanka. I didn't mind it, but
and I do also find it interesting. Like D'Hoffryn is then the Seven of Pentacles.
Yes.
And we talked about this a little bit before we started. D'Hoffryn is an interesting choice of this as the Seven of Pentacles as well. So I don't know. I feel like I almost would have liked him better as the Six
of
Pentacles.
Yeah. See, I think that works for me because with the Seven of Pentacles, like Julie, you had some really interesting points that you said about him, but like for the seven energy of Pentacles for me is like you do something and then you sit back and you wait for the spoils of the thing that you've done.
Right.
Hoffman doesn't do anything. He just waits. He waits for somebody powerful and angry and vengeful enough. And then he goes and offers them this opportunity to become a demon. He doesn't set that up or instigate it or control it in any way.
Exactly.
He almost gives them the gift of finding a way to process all of that anger and need for vengeance into something which feels more Six of Pentacles to me, but in a slightly darker way than
And there's so much about deal making into D'Hoffryn, like the episode where Anya has become a vengeance demon again, and he comes back and basically says, you have to sacrifice somebody in order to save these guys that you just killed. And she says, okay, I'll sacrifice my own life, but then Hallie dies instead. Like to me, D'Hoffryn has more of that kind of
give and take.
Kind of
what he bestows on.
Picking and choosing what he bestows on people, like exactly, Julie, like what you just said. More than the Seven of Pentacles,
I see it for sure.
But Julie, you had some interesting stuff. Sorry, which I didn't want to say because I wanted to give you the opportunity to say it yourself. But when we were talking about it before we went live, you had some thoughts about D'Hoffryn, didn't you, on this card?
Oh, I think actually Lisa covered it. It's just he is like waiting. He's essentially assessing. When I remember seeing him in Seeds, like he pops in and he's kind of taking the lay of the land with like Anya before, and her ogre husband. I don't know, that episode was interesting. But anyway, like all the stuff going on there and just kind of, it almost feels like biding his time until say like taking Anya on board or Anyanka on board as a vengeance demon and just kind of waiting before kind of coming in to make his move. And to your point, I do think that the seven. So I think maybe that's what they were going for. I don't really know because the guidebook isn't helpful as
Right. Yeah. Guidebook.
So that was kind of my guess.
Anyway.
Yeah, that was just kind of my guess of like, I guess, because he is kind of just there watching, assessing, whatever, biding his time. But, and to your point, it's like, yes, with the 7 of Pentacles, for me, it is, that person, like that solitary person, kind of laying down an action and then, stepping back and reevaluate, like it's, whereas he's not much doing that from the beginning per se, as he is kind of coming in, like coming into the scene, like, oh, okay, this is already taking place. Hey, let me plant this idea in your mind, or
I can take advantage of this situation.
Yeah, I can. Exactly. So I don't know.
Anyway, so yeah, sort of. I personally really love both the 8 and 9 of Pentacles. I don't know what you guys think, but I think they're both perfect. Like,
I think they're fantastic. Yeah, 8 is Buffy training with Giles, and then we've got 9 of Pentacles on, was it Halloween, and Anya just reveling in all the profit of counting her money and just loving every moment of it, for sure.
But the 10 of Pentacles I find very interesting because, again, this is Buffy with Dracula.
I just don't get it. I just
it's not Buffy though. She's got red hair. I thought it was Willow, but then I'm like, I don't remember seeing a scene with Willow.
Oh yeah, you're right. She does have her. That's weird.
Yeah, which is where I get lost, because I'm like,
when did this happen?
Yeah, it's definitely Dracula, right? Like,
that's definitely Dracula.
Yeah, it's definitely Dracula.
And I think it could have worked if they had figured out a different way to illustrate this, because I'm like, who's that redheaded chick? Because it ain't Willow, I don't think, unless there was a scene I missed. There was never a point where this happened.
It's like, on the one hand, I get the thinking, because like Dracula, when Dracula shows up in Buffy, it's this real, like, even Buffy's excited because it's like vampire history,
Yes, absolutely.
I'm part of vampire history now.
Exactly.
Dracula has shown up.
Yes,
so I get that. But on the other hand, yes, it's kind of a weird illustration. And also I feel like they could have done more in terms of like Slayer history and lineage.
Yes.
Beyond just Dracula, like I feel like there's more they could have, like, Dracula just sort of represents, like, yes, vampire history and legacy, but like there's other things that represent that better, I feel like.
So, and also the whole idea of like, he's trying to, I guess, seduce Buffy and kind of bring her on to kind of his side and whatever, continuing on that lineage and legacy, it's like continuing on. So so I get that, except I don't know who this chick is. I have no idea.
It's just such a weird card. And of course, once again,
the guidebook just doesn't help. No, and that's it is ultimately it's the red head,
the red hair.
I was like, I look at this card and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm looking at. What is happening?
Can you tell me? Yeah, exactly.
And my guidebook does not want to give me the answer.
No.
Right, exactly. So yeah, that one, again, I think I understand, like, at a very surface level, the thinking with it being Dracula, but they could have made the card much clearer, actually had a guidebook description, and finally just chosen something better in general. I feel like it just doesn't fully work for me. So yep. And that's it. We're done with the whole deck, you guys.
Yeah,
and I do think, on the whole,
despite all our bitching,
despite how we made it sound, we all actually really like this.
We
all really like it.
As somebody, who's new to Buffy, I think that there are some choices where I felt like, okay, I wouldn't have, I feel like it's lazy, or I would have picked something else. On the whole, I can see. It's like kind of what we've been saying throughout the whole episode. Like, I can see it, and I think also the art is great. I love art. I didn't think I would like this style of art, but it really grew on me. I think.
I really like it. It works for me.
I think the writing is good when it's accurate to the description. I think, it's got a lot going for it in terms of when you take into account all the other Insight Edition decks that are out there, this, you know,
and it's the only one I own, so I have no
I own
basis in comparison other than what I've seen.
Right.
around.
Other than exactly. I mean, I own the Horror Tarot, but that was a gift. So like, this is the first one I actually chose to buy. And I think that, you know, too bad they effed up as much as they did, but on the whole, this was, you know,
I think
they did a good job, you know.
Overall, I feel like the deck has been made by people
who know
the show. I don't own any other Insight decks, but I think part of the complaints, not just about them, but in general at the moment, is there seems to be a lot of pop culture decks being thrown out, and when you look at it, you're like,
what the heck?
Have you seen this series? And do you know anything about tarot? Because on both counts, I'm going to go with no.
Yeah.
I think this deck very much feels like somebody who at least has a good understanding of the entire series of Buffy and also has an understanding of tarot.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. Agreed. Yes. It's their thought went into it. It's not always thought I agree with in all cases, but they definitely, I mean, a valiant effort was made at making a functional Buffy deck that actually corresponds with the series and
fully illustrated.
Illustrated. It's not lazy. It works. Like it works, generally speaking. I do think so. Yeah.
And I think being charitable, when you're trying to take something specific and fit it 78 different ways into very specific boxes, you're going to get some hits and you're going to get some misses. Absolutely. And I think actually they have more hits than misses for the most part. Even the ones where we're like, you know what, I think our choice was better. I still think the choice they made were fine and they work. I just would have preferred something different if I was making it myself. But then ultimately, if I want it exactly the way I want it, then
make your own.
I'm gonna have to make my own. That's just the reality, isn't it? You're never going to get anything that's 100% perfect. Or exactly for you, unless it's what you've done yourself.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So on the whole, I like it. I enjoy it. I really do.
My only other thing, which I think we talked about before we went on, is I just don't understand why they've made the borders different colors, but then with no and this is because I'm Virgo rising. I need things to make sense. And I don't understand why they've made the borders different colors, but not by suit or anything.
Not for any rhyme or reason.
Some random colors and gone. I'm going to stick that one there, and I'm going to stick that one there, and
because like I said,
I mean, fine. It doesn't make the deck unusable. It just seems like a really weird aesthetic choice.
It for me as well, because like I was saying before we came on the live, that I was thinking of how I was going to edge my deck, and I'm like, well, I'll go by the borders. So I'm like, organizing into separate piles, and I'm like, this is so uneven, I can't even deal. And there's no rhyme or reason to it because it isn't by suit. It doesn't seem. Or any type of theme or anything. It's just they decided. And then amongst purple, there are different shades of purple. Amongst red, there are different shades of red. I'm like, okay, never. You know what? I'm just gonna pick one color. That's fine. I'm not gonna.
I don't do edging. I'm way too shaky-handed for that. And
that's what
and I don't know how to fix it if I go wrong. So
Tara, you could trim it for sure, and that would work so well, honestly. I mean, in the backs and. But I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered by the borders. Honestly.
I'm not bothered enough that I don't do anything about it because I'm also exceptionally lazy.
I like the color schemes, honestly, and as long as I know what the title, I know what each card is supposed to be, then I'm good.
And it's clear. It's
clear,
very clear which card is which. You're not trying to guess or use the borders in any way to make it easier. It's not. It's a minor complaint that doesn't really matter. I just wanted to say it because
I mean, I made moody. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. But
do you know what card we skipped that I wanted to talk about?
What?
Sorry. The 4 of Chalices. Did we talk about that? We didn't talk about that.
Oh yeah, Principal Snyder. No,
yeah,
we didn't.
Weird Principal Snyder card.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did skip that. Yeah,
we skipped it, and like that's another one where I feel like that what was in the description would have been better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the description is Buffy at the beginning of Once More with Feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like that just makes so much more sense to me than Principal Snyder. I'm sorry, like we're just like.
I mean, I like Principal Snyder. If you think about it from like, if you think about Band Candy and how he behaves in Band Candy, I think he actually works really well for this card.
Yeah, I can see once again, it's one of those things. I can see why they chose him. I can make a case for it. Like if I work hard enough, like I can see it. Like I mean, he was never a favorite character of mine anyway. So like me seeing him in a deck, like I don't need him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he was supposed to be anybody's favorite character. I don't think
No. But just to have him in there, I'm not sure, we didn't need him in the deck, I think. But yeah, I agree. I would have been totally fine with
I think if you were going to have Snyder in the deck, the best scene bar none to include would be him being eaten by a giant worm.
Wow.
Because that's the moment we were all there for.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the moment we want to see.
That's
I don't know where you would put that, but you need to find a way to stick that in there somewhere.
Yeah. This
just seems like another example of where they ideated a particular card, which was Buffy at the beginning of Once More with Feeling, but then couldn't figure out a way to illustrate it to make that obvious that that's what that was, and therefore pick something different, but didn't
something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just flipping through the guidebook again and realized, that one annoyed me too.
Yeah.
I should bring it up.
Well, yeah, and like 4 sides. I not to keep dragging this on, but I would have picked something different for this too. Like I get it. Once again, I understand. Like Buffy bot whatever, but I would have gone with something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that was just like too easy.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway,
cool.
We've gone through.
Well, if you stuck with us this whole time, thank you.
Thank you so much.
2 hours. Oh my God, you guys.
Yeah, this is the longest one I think we've done, and
understandably,
we went through a whole deck. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It was so much fun, and we enjoyed.
We are back on the 6th of May.
Yes, we are.
6th of May, and we'll be on Sarah's channel.
Yes, we will.
For that. So hopefully we will see people then.
Do we want to mention our other little project that we're going to be doing?
Why not? Go for it.
Oh, well, so all 3 of us have talked at length about how we wish we did monthly wrap-ups or monthly show and tells or monthly favorites, and we're all way too freaking lazy to do it ever. And so we are going to, because we always have more fun when it's the 3 of us, we will be recording a joint monthly wrap up for the month of April at the beginning of May, and we'll be posting that on my channel as well. Yes. So yeah, I think we're just gonna start doing those together because it's more fun and it keeps us accountable. And
it does.
Yeah, so I think
getting lazy and not doing it. So
the plan at the moment is to do them pre-recorded. And we'll do each month. We'll post the finished video on a different channel, so it will rotate like this does, but it will give us a chance as well, to just have a conversation. Sometimes it's fun to talk about the stuff that you've been doing and actually have a conversation in real time.
Exactly. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
And Tarot Geek, please do not apologize for chatting so much. The chat was awesome. Like everybody was so engaged.
So good.
It was so good. I'm so glad.
It was good. We will all quite happily talk Buffy with anybody as much as they like for as long as they like. It was really so fun. Never a problem.
Yeah. So please never apologize for talking in the chat. It's awesome. Love it.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I guess we are going to wrap up here. So thanks to everybody for tuning in to live chat, watching the playback. And next time we will catch you on Sarah's channel.
Sarah's channel, in a couple of weeks.
Yes, we will. So, all right. Until then,
Do you want me to put up the thingy?
We shall see. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's put up our background.
There we go. All right. Bye.